Hello everybody, welcome to Wizard of Mo Games. My name is Kenny, and today I will be doing a video on board games for which I have 3D printed inserts. So about a year ago I brought a Adventurer Pro 5M 3D printer for the sole purpose of printing inserts for all of these beautiful board games I have. Now, a majority of the board games nowadays come with gorgeous inserts. A lot of them are pretty basic, right? They don't want to go full design on every single component. A lot of them will do the job. A majority of others also will just come with like a big slot in the middle and bags, and you kind of throw all the little chips and pieces and dice and stuff in the bags, which is fine. But a big part of selecting the game to play is how much work is it to open it and then put it away, right? So a lot of the games with a lot of small tokens or things you got to sift through take longer to set up when you got to find the pieces and whatnot. So I kind of started buying board game inserts, primarily from Etsy. I bought a couple of the 3D printed ones, and I'll show you a couple of those today. And then I realized that, hey, if I buy a 3D printer, there's a ton of them on websites like Printable where I can just go download them and then print them out myself. There's also, I think, like Cult 3D and then another one. And then from those, I learned that, hey, I can design my own and then I can print them out, right? And then I learned a lot from the other folks who have made some, because clever as they are, they would create an insert that not only stored everything, but was set up ready. So I can just pull out this component and that's that player piece, pull out that one and that's that player piece, right? So I'm going to go through several of those. It's also an excuse to show you some of the cool games I have, as a couple of them I have not played yet or we don't have on the channel. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first game I have in front of me here is Deliverance, and it is one of my favorite. Lowen Games, it's a tactical skirmish where you play different angels, primarily archangels, and you face off demons. There's lower demons, there's higher demons. You move around the board. I say board, you build the map. They're like square, 3x3 squares. Or is it 4? It might be 4x4. And you kind of lay them out based on the scenario. And then demons spawn at certain locations, and you're kind of moving around, attacking them. You've got range attacks, you've got melee attacks. Gorgeous, gorgeous game. The main box here came with a good insert for cards, and for, I might as well show it to you, for the miniatures and for the tokens. So I'll show you this, make sure you can see that pretty well. Yep, there we go. So you can see all the angel miniatures here. They've all got their own little slots. We can pull this tray out. There's a token tray. So they're nice. So I just pull this tray out. I set it on the table, and I can pick out the tokens that I need. Underneath that, we've got a slot for a lot of the cards. Now these cards are basically the angel abilities, demon abilities, things like that. And then these are the tiles. They're actually 5x5. And so you can set up the tiles. So pretty good insert for the base components there. I tend to go all in and get deluxe components. And for this game, the deluxe components were actually acrylic standees. And so that's where this box comes in. So this box came with the acrylic standees, and they were, just like most components, are in bags. And so the way these components works is there's a certain number of demons, and then there's a certain number of those demon types. And so they were all in the bag, and I had to sift through them every time to try to find the demon I wanted. So in comes the insert. I'm going to push this back just a little bit. So this is a very basic one that I designed myself. I counted how many demons were. These are the minions, not the elites. I ended up putting their cards. It kind of tells you how to spawn them, how much experience they get, and then all their demon standees are right in there. So pretty cool. So here's their other cards. Or there are other ones. So I put this on top so you can know which demon it is. This is great because sometimes demons will spawn, you know, in the middle of combat, different types or different quantities, right? So if I take out this Seraph here, the game may start with one Seraph out there, and then it says, hey, spawn another Seraph. And so instead of going through the bag and searching for them, I can just pull them right out of the tray there and put them out. So I love that. And then right under them on the next tray, these are the demon princes. That's what they're called. There's only a few of them. Put them there. I had some room on the side here for these. These are the acrylic standees. So if you wanted to stand them up, they would go in like that and stand up on the game. Since I do a lot of recording from a top down, you can't really see the acrylic standees. So I ended up laying them down when I was doing my recording. But man, I love acrylic standees. Look how gorgeous that looks. And then at the bottom, well, before I do that, so let's take Legion here. So I also put in an extra slot, and there's actually a well here for all their cards. So the card, this one, the Battle Prince card, kind of tells you who he is and where he spawns. And then they've got special powers for each of them. So all that right in this little slot. That also freed up some space in the main box for the cards. Because I sleeved them, the space was really tight. So by creating these, I was able to pull out a significant amount of cards to go in here and free up that space. And then we have our angels. Okay. Little less organization here because they have a lot of cards, so that's in the main box. So I just made sure there was enough space to stick them in there. We got a few other units that were too large for the other box, so I put them in there. And then it all just kind of sits right back in here. I went through a couple iterations of this design because originally, I think there's another design that takes this one and adds all the small ones. I didn't bother with the small ones for myself because I was like, oh, I'm playing face down. I think these will be enough to fit everybody. But, you know, I went to the Discord, a really great group of folks there. A lot of them printed it and they said they really liked it. And they kind of asked about the extra standee holders. So I kind of went through and modified this tray a little bit so it can fit those. But that is Deliverance. All right. Next, since we're already talking about angels and demons, let's go with Goetia, the 9 Kings of Solomon. I pushed the wrong button there. All right, so this is the game where you are worshiping demons in order to summon them and then use their powers to then worship more demons and summon them. And you're going for glory, victory, points, etc. This one was a challenge. We still haven't played it yet, and that's because a lot of the cards and components were kind of difficult to view because of how they were set up in the box. So we'll just start from the top, right? So up here I've got, these are the demons themselves. So King Asmodee, these are the, what is these? Quick setup reference cards, so they're extra large cards. We've got King Bile there, Belith, a bunch of them like that. So these are the main big guys, right? And these are the summoning methods. Right? So there's a number of cubes, and you kind of got to go across the world, collect the cubes, use those cubes to basically perform these rituals. Now in this box, I did not have to create a separate container for this. I made this so that it was enough to kind of hold these in place as well. And if you're wondering why there's all the holes here, right, it's just to save material and to make the overall insert lighter. And then you'll see on the bottom there's a hole too to kind of help pop these out just in case. you have some trouble getting them out. Now we go to the inside. So this black kind of cardboard here was already part of the game, and then it was just baggies, little white clear bags. All the tokens were put in there, all the cards, you know, you can stack them up. Actually, there's a divider here. So what I did is I measured the cards, I measured the space here, and I said, okay, I can create this for this side and create that for that side. So what I did here was created this tray that will hold each of the kings' cards. So you've got their world cards. See, these are, so when you go into that space, you pick up, you know, 1 pink cube or 2 pink cubes, and then their individual power cards. So you don't play with every single king. So right when you choose the kings you want to play, hey, all the cards are there with them. All right, we've also got one over here, same thing. Another king there, and another king there. I believe that's the bottom. Nope, and another king there. So there's, you know, we said 9 kings, right? So that's 2, 4, 6, 8 right there. And so, of course, I just had to make one or design one of these and then print them a bunch of times. So then you get out to here, and so this one's got another king, but we'll get to that in a second. There's edge cards. So these are the edge cards. Again, same size. They also had some small cards that came with them. Oops. Right, so I just printed the same insert again for that one. I think I may have raised the inside a little bit. I don't remember. And the same on that side. So again, just nice little trays. You can pull them out. These are going to be about the same. This is the 9th king, and then some more world tiles. And then under that, you have the primary world tiles, which are all these white ones. So this comes out. These are all the white cards. Some of them are basic world cards, and some replace ones that have been destroyed or fixed like that. I put in separate wells for the different coins, different coin sizes. This feels really nice to hold. This goes down here at the bottom. And again, that one's kind of ready-made to put out and just start using. This is the spacer. So kind of realized that this slides around. I didn't really have anything else component-wise to put in here, so I created the spacer to kind of help keep it from moving, right? So in here we've got these markers for the outer world cards. We've also got the score pad. Put that in there as well. That fits perfectly in there. And then we have all the player tokens, which that was fun to design. All right, so these are easy to kind of put your finger in there, pull them out. We've got all the cubes that go along with those, with the world. So these are your, I can't remember what they call them, your monks or something like that, that you're going to put out onto the world and collect these cubes with, and then you use these cubes to perform rituals. So this is kind of like a little bit of a curved well to kind of help you, you know, slide these out. So that was fun to make. Couple of the challenges with designing your own is you got to make sure there's enough room for your fingers, for people's fingers to get in and, you know, pull tokens out. So like in this case, had I blocked this off, I wouldn't have been able to easily pull these out, right? So you got to make little slots here so people can get their fingers in and pull them out. These I didn't do that because obviously they're small cubes, so if I put a slot here, they're just going to fall out. So most of them you can just kind of stick your finger in and grab, and then you can also just push them off the, it's like a curved well in there. So that is Goetia. And this game I've had for a long while, and I really wanted, I kept telling myself I want to get an insert for it. I kind of looked online all over the place. It was probably the game that really pushed me to design my own, even though it turned out not to be the first game I designed an insert for. But once I got better at it, at designing them, then I said, okay, now I can tackle Goetia. now it's just a great setup. I do have a page, which, by the way, I'm going to put a link to all the printables, the links to where I got the files from, or if I bought them from Etsy, I'll put a link to the store. And if I made my own, then I'll put a link to that in the description. So that is Goetia. Let's just grab something here. This is Vale of Eternity. All right, I'm not going to remember how all these games play without looking at a picture. Okay, so with this one, you have, each player has 2 markers, and they kind of like, it's drafting. So they have all these cards around. You put your marker on the card you want. Nobody else can touch it. It goes around the table. The last player gets to then put his second marker, and then goes back around the other way. And then you can choose to either discard the cards you marked for the, what do they call them? Receive markers. To get the gems for them. Can't remember what they're called, but to get these jewels, these currency. It's basically currency. So you can discard certain cards for currency, or you can draft them into your hand and then pay a currency in order to put them out on the table. And this is the tableau building one. So some of them will have immediate effects when you put them out, gaining your rewards, points, you know, whatever. There's a point track that you're going around. And some of them are at the end of each round. The persistent ones will trigger, and so you'll go through and trigger all of them. So I might have one that says, give me a blue coin. I'll get the blue coin. Another one might say, hey, discard a blue coin to get 5 points. So then I discard that blue coin I just gained, and I gain 5 points. So that is a high-level explanation of how this game works. And then I also have the Vale of Eternity Artifacts expansion. So this I've never used. This is the board that the cards are put around. It shows you where the cards go and the currency when you sell them. And then this is the scoreboard itself. You can see that. There's a lot of white light. Maybe you can't see that. Okay. Okay. And then on the inside, ignoring the middle here because I haven't printed anything for that yet. This one I found online. Nice well that they designed for the coins. Right. It's like square and circular, so when you do get to the bottom, you can kind of scoop them out. And they even created a lid for it. And then for the cards, they made these little tuck boxes. The cards are on the inside. So this one was originally designed with just the base game in mind, right? Now that the expansion is here, not everything quite fits. So this is going to be one where I may go back and see if they updated their design, or see if I can just create my own and maybe make a little more use of the space in there. This is another one of those setup things. So this tray is one player. It's got all the components in there. So you just pick out the color and you give it to them, and got everything they need to play. So that's that one. It's a small one. It's a small game, but a lot of game. Let's put it that way. Okay. This was probably one of the original ones I printed as well. So let's move this over here. We'll probably stack over there. I'm going to start running out of space here real soon. We'll see. Super Motherload. One of my favorite games. It is a what they call a polyomino style game. It's also a deck builder. And basically what you're doing is you are playing cards as miners to dig and go down and try to get as much gems, jewels, etc. as possible. I don't know if you can see that. So this is like the map. You're digging down and you're getting these resources to not only upgrade your equipment, but also just gain points. It comes with all these polyomino tiles, right? Most of them are rectangular. I think they're all actually rectangular. They're all rectangular. except for the square. So the 1x1, 1x3, 1x2, 1x4, etc. And so as you play your cards, you might play one that says place a 1x3. You're basically excavating that much of the of the tunnel, or you're placing tunnels that much of the ground, right? And so you kind of block it off. So this one was interesting because there was a lot of pieces that was difficult to sort out. So here are the boards. They're just gorgeous. They're double-sided in case you want a different variant when you play, so you can mix and match them. And then there's these. So this one I got off of online. Somebody made these. Basically all the squares fit, so not, you know, nothing's moving. So all the cards are here, more cards are here. All right, this is leaning. Oh, I see. Okay. So, and they actually, you know, went and made individual wells for different type cards. So again, this is a nice setup one where you can just kind of pull these out and you have a majority of it in your hands. These are just big wells for these. They're double-sided, and they're you know, there's just a lot of them. So I kind of like their decision just to leave it as a big well. I can pull this out. It's got a curve at the bottom of it to kind of help you pull pieces out. And these are basically what you're mining for. See, this has got $5 on it. This one is $2 on the other side. This one's $8, $3, right? Gold, silver, etc. And then you use those to buy upgrades for your player, your character, and you go from there. And the amazing piece, I still don't know what this tray is for. I may have had something extra that I put somewhere else, but this is the, oh, it's actually multiple trays. See, I forgot. This is the amazing piece. So now the 1x1s are all organized right here, right? So now when I get a 1x1, I can just pull it out of there instead of, you know, sifting through the pile to try to find them. These are the 1x3s. And so these are limited in quantity when you're playing. If you run out, you run out. It's kind of hard to run out, but you can possibly run out. And so what happened a couple times is, you know, a 1x1 will get lost in the bigger stack, and we assumed, oh, we ran out. And then later on, we see, oh, there was still one left. Right. And then here's this one, 1x4s. So really cool. Very nice tight fit there. Put these back together. This box, so I had a tackle box, and so the tackle box had little slots that you can move around, and so that's how I had organized it. But that tackle box was just a little taller than the box, so this had a lot of lid lift. So once I printed this, I was so excited that after, like, I don't know, 6 years, this box finally closes all the way. All right, so that is Motherload, Super Motherload. Next, we've got Above and Below. So this particular copy I haven't played yet. My buddy Chris, it's one of his favorite games, and we played his a few times. And then I saw it on sale, so I went ahead and picked it up because I do like it. You basically have a village, and you are spending resources to pick up other resources, but you can also go and explore. And then you roll these 2 dice. They give you a number like 26, 65, you know, whatever it is. And then you go into the book, the encounter book. Somebody will read the passage there, and then you have to make a decision, and you'll either be rewarded or sometimes bad things happen, right? So that's pretty cool. Gorgeous, gorgeous artwork, Red Raven Games. These are the player boards. Look at that green. It's just really beautiful. I do have plans to show this to the game group so that we can go ahead and play it, introduce them to it. So you'll notice a lot of blank space in this because this insert was designed with a lot of the expansions in mind, and I have not picked up those expansions yet. But you can see these are the tokens that you can get. You'll see them on the bottom of the board here. And depending on how many you get down here, you get more points. And then they also have like multipliers, depending on how many of these red pots you have, right? Some of them are rarer than others. But this comes out. So when you go to explore, it might say, oh, you helped somebody out, they gave you 1 fish. So you would take the fish and you would put it on your board. There are some rules and restrictions on how you can place these out. I don't remember those off the top of my head, but I think maybe you get points for those that are adjacent to each other or something like that. All right. We have the in-game currency, 1s, 5s, and 10s. Again, they kind of did the finger slot there, so you can pick these up. These feel really good too. So there's a lot of empty space in here, so when I do pick up the expansions, you get them. So when I was printing this, I was like, oh, maybe I can just print the pieces I need, but then that leaves these gaps and things slide around, right? But you can see, look how nice these are. This person was a pro. These are your villagers. Actually, the cat is not a villager. These are villagers. Yeah, so it's cool that they put them in this little vertical well here like this, and you know the expansions will come with more, so you can put them out there. There's the dice that I was talking about that you roll. There's barrels. I believe if you have the barrel, you're first player or something like that. It does come with some cards. Each set has its own holder. So I thought that was pretty cool. These are like the locations too that you can pick up. See, they cost a certain amount. And then you get a certain amount of currency with them, or resources with them. And of course, because I sleeved them, I had to make sure that the inserts will fit sleeved cards. So here's more cards. Those are your starting villagers. Look at that. They put a divider in there. So again, when you go to set up, you just pull out the stack and you say, all right, here's your stack, player 1, player 2. Actually, no. There's 3 types of villagers. You can play 4 players. So there's 4 of the first villager, 4 of the second, 4 of the third. And then your cards. It's a very nice insert. Once I get there's another one. There's some big cards that will go down here. There's some more cards down in there. Okay. And then I like this little like slot here, this curve. That is so that the boards, when they go in, won't slide around. Right? So that is the insert for above and below. And then the rulebook fits in perfectly. It takes quite a bit of work, I should say. Once you get better at it, you know how to design them so that the rulebook does fit back in and everything fits in nicely. But it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy. All right, so that's above and below. Now we've got Summoner Wars. This box is heavy. Oh, you can hear that. I don't know if you heard that. So this insert I bought off of Etsy. So Summoner Wars is a game with multiple factions. And then each faction comes with a deck of cards. The board is a grid of rectangular spaces, and the cards are basically your units. Some are spells. And you're moving your units up this grid to try to defeat your opponent's summoner. Right, and that's the objective of the game. So I've got a couple of rule books, 2nd edition rule books. I've got this here. Notice it's not even opened. I think I have a playmat for this one. Because again, since everything's cards, it's easier to pick cards up off a playmat than a board. And look at that. So I don't remember what the original insert looked like, but it definitely did not hold this many factions. And so this one holds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18 factions. I think I've got a couple in here in this well. There's a couple special units in this well, and I've got a couple more here. In fact, I've run out of space. I probably have 3 more factions sitting in another box. I gotta decide what I'm gonna do with that. I was thinking this is 2nd edition master set. Maybe if they ever come out with another box set, then I can just get another insert and start putting them in there. But they're angled so that you can easily see who they are, pull them out. See, there's all the cards with a faction. And so in this game, when you attack, you either do melee or ranged attacks. And so there's dice here. And depending on which one you do, which attack you're doing, you count the number of symbols that match it, and that's how much damage you're going to do. There's also energy tokens. You got to use like energy or mana in order to activate some abilities. And they've got damage tokens, and I've got more dice down in there. So that's pretty cool. This was probably the first or second insert that I actually purchased. And again, I only had maybe about 5 of these slots filled in, but I kind of already knew that Flat Hat Games was making more and more. And so I went ahead and got it so that I could fit all the future expansions in here. But they ended up making way more expansions than I would thought. So, but because of all the cards, this box is heavy. The other alternative is you can buy card boxes. They come in like single columns, dual columns, 3 columns. There's probably one that's 4 too. So I could have done that, and I could have gotten my own labels as well. But I like it when they fit in the original box, because then I can tell by the artwork what game it is. When I buy the collapsible or the folding ones, unless I put stickers on there or something, I can't tell what game is in there. All right. Here's the last from this stack. This game is called Revive. It's post-apocalyptic. I don't remember a whole lot about it without opening it up. I'm just seeing the map. Once I see the map. So you've got a player board. As you pick up resources from the world, you kind of level up your technology, if you will, and you get more stuff out of that. This is the map. So you're exploring the map. They're all face down tiles. As you go there, you flip them over. Depending on what hex you're on, you can collect resources of certain types there. And then you kind of have an expansion. You can expand your troops a little bit. So you start from a primary location, and then if you drop a house, then you can start spawning people or moving from the house's location. So you can't just drop anywhere on the map necessarily. You kind of have to expand outward. They do have unique player powers, lots of resources. There's also artifacts and things like that. Look at that insert. So this one I downloaded. I can only ever hope to one day make something as glorious as this one. All of these components were in bags. So it was just a stack of bags, and you just pick up the stack of bags and you just drop them and you pull out all the pieces. So I went online and somebody had already made this gorgeous insert for it. So each of these are for players. All right, so you pick up a stack and you hand it to the players. It's got their meeples, their houses, their upgrade token slot stuff, right? They just drop these blue. Yeah, some of them are scoring, some of them are upgrades. Some of these more tokens just are part of your player board, right? We've got all the resources here. They've got a well for these energy to activate certain powers. This was interesting that they made, right? This is like a chest that you can open, and it's like a diamond. Well, it's a hex. It's an elongated hex, is what it is. And so it was cool that they were able to make it fit that shape perfectly. So this little tray comes out. These are upgrades you can put on your board. So we would just take all these out, and actually I could probably leave them in here, like shuffle them and put them back in here, put them on the side of the board. And then as you get them, you just pull the top one. That's what you get. Same with these. They got little rewards and stuff on the other side. Perfect fit. You got slots for the cards. They even went the extra mile and put these like curves on top to kind of help them sit on top of each other without sliding around too much. So I thought that was cool. The board is on the very bottom. Here are the map tiles. that. You just grab the map tiles. Again, really nice organization on putting them back. That goes here. You got some special map tiles here. So again, all of these were in bags. You kind of had to sift through them, especially these. Now I could have, you know, designated a bag for each player and just dropped all the pieces in there. But again, it gets to be hectic when you're dropping all the bags out and looking for stuff, right? Actually, there's a couple more stuff here. So these are the player boards, and it's got a little tuck here. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know that you can see that without me spilling it over. So you see how there's this triangle piece here? See that? Pull this up. So this piece comes off, there's more underneath it. And then there's this like hole right there so that those kind of slide underneath. Again, beautiful, beautiful design. And these are your players, your characters. They're double-sided because I think they're unique powers on the other side. And the board's on the bottom. So I really enjoyed printing this one. I also created a spreadsheet where I basically calculated, you know, how much each kilogram of filament I have. And so when I go into the application and I say print it, it'll say, all right, you're using this much in kilograms. I'll put that in a spreadsheet and it'll basically tell me how much it costs to print that insert. Then I created a table where I compared that price to buying it on Etsy or Broken Token and a couple of the other insert type websites where they sell them. And you know, something like this on Etsy probably costs like $70 and then shipping, but I probably printed it for like $4 or something like that. So now, actually, I lied. This one was probably like $10 because I quickly learned that this particular filament costs more than like the generic black and white one that you probably saw in some of the other boxes. So I was like, all right, let me not use that one as much anymore if I really wanted to save, right? A little, well, I'd be saving a lot more in general, but if I wanted to save a little bit more on filament, this one costs a lot more than the other ones. So these just kind of go back in and everything holds in place. Now, I will say the one thing about printing out your own is like these would have came in bags, and so if the box got shook up, they would have at least stayed in the bag. These, there's nothing to keep these right in place. Now I could go through and make like tops for a lot of these, but that's again a lot more filament. It's going to make the box weigh a lot more, and this already weighs quite a bit. And I don't store my boxes vertical, so I don't have to worry about that, but I do have to let other people know, store the boxes vertical. All right, so that is Revive, another cool insert. I'm going to grab the stack closest to me. We got Mission to Planet Hexx. This is another big game in a small box. And so it's got a big play mat with the Hexx spaces on there. And basically the cards themselves, the majority of cards in games are rectangular. These are Hexx cards. And so interestingly enough, right, I always sleeve all my cards. And then when I got this game, I was like, oh, I can't sleeve these, right, because they're Hexx. How would I get them in without them being able to, you know, easily slide back out, or it wouldn't cover the entire card? So that was interesting. So yeah, we do play this without sleeving them. This one again just kind of came with these wells, and then you just kind of stack the cards in there and you stack the components next to them, right? So I went online and I found that somebody made this beautiful insert. Right, so these are the cards. I separated them because the expansion, you can only play with so many cards. And so once I got the expansion, we kind of chose, okay, randomly select this many cards to actually go into the game we're playing, and the rest, you know, are on standby. And then when we play again, we swap cards in and out. So each player comes with this little rocket ship. And I throw it on the table. That's my player color. You've got these little stands in here, so the rocket ships just kind of sit on them. And then with each rocket, I ended up going, of course, all in with them. Each player has a die of the matching color. Okay. You've also got round trackers or action trackers. You only get 3 actions per turn. And basically what you're doing is you have a mission card, like this one, where you've got to upload and slot a card of each of these types, right? So there's a equipment card or a gear card, there's a space card, a planet card, etc. And so you have to decide while you're playing, do I use this gear card to mess my opponent up or give me an advantage, or do I upload and slot it and get me closer to victory? Once you've finished all of that, there's a little paragraph here, and you read it and you fill in the blank spaces with the name of the card you have. And it's usually a pretty funny, cool story that you get out of that there. We played this a couple times on the channel. Great game, very crazy, chaotic. I think I won once with Goetia mechanic. If you're not familiar with that, Goetia from Yu-Gi-Oh! Is once you get all 5 Goetia pieces in your hand, you automatically win. And there's a card in this game. I think it says once you get 1 of each card and this card, and you have so many currency and resources, then you automatically win. So that was pretty cool. I managed to pull that off once, so now everybody's looking for it. So, so this comes out, and it's a whole piece, oh, except the dice. So it's kind of like a slot there. I'll have to remember that. Isn't that nice? Look at that. So spaces for all the Hexx cards. There's a hole on the bottom to kind of help you push it in and out. And then, like I said, these sit here. So that was exciting, and I just printed 2 of them, 1 for each box. I love that the expansion box is the exact same size as the original. That made that a lot easier. So here are the dice. You only roll 1 on your turn, right? So this I would be able to move up to 4 spaces. Okay. And then they just go in here. And that is Planet Hexx. Mission to Planet Hexx. You can play without the playmat, right? You just kind of, there's rules for placing the hexes adjacent to each other. I just use the playmat because it's gorgeous and it kind of outlines the hex spaces for organization. Next we have Spire's End. So this is a story-driven card game, and basically they're like big tarot-sized cards, and you flip through them, you read the story, you flip to the next one, you read the story. Another page might have a decision you got to make, you get some resources, etc. And then you flip another one, and there'll be like a battle, and it'll have all the stats of the enemy on there, and you're rolling dice and you're attacking them. Really cool story-driven game. I love it. All the components came in baggies, and so there's also like a save mechanic. You can like save. You can put all the components in a specific bag to save them. But again, the bag, I have red cubes, I have clear cubes, yellow, black cubes. It was kind of a tough act to kind of sort them out and get them ready. Or I went online and I printed this. All the cubes neatly organized. I can grab the ones I need. All right. Different dice, all there. Different cards there. And then it's got even a bookmark that comes in there with the cards in here. Actually, these are not tarot size. These are much larger. So you can see these are the cards. I'll show you, like, see, that's what a story would look like. Story card would look like. Oh. And now I don't remember where I was. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and so the rest of this box is basically just a stack of cards. I know the artist does great artwork, came out with a couple other games. I haven't picked those up yet. But I like the dark space nature theme of this one and creatures a lot more than the new one. So this one was a cool one to print. Fits right in, right up to the top of the box. Actually, I think that can sit down in there. And again, this is one of those where you don't want to, put it away vertically or sideways, because then all the things will fall out. Well, they'll kind of scatter in here. I think this lid is tight enough that it would prevent them from going anywhere, but you know, it's just a good mindset. There's the dice, easy to pull out, and there's some additional cards in there, action deck, and then it just slides right back in there. Awesome little insert there. Now we've got Riftforce. Great two-player game. Basic idea behind this is you choose elements, you're placing them at certain locations. Right, there's 5 locations. If at any point you can do like a check, if there's no opposing unit at the location you're at, you score points, and the first person to 12, I believe it's 12 points wins. So what you're trying to do is place your units down at these locations, trying to knock out enemy units at that location, so then you can do a check and score. Now the check is a little tricky because the check is also what lets you draw back up to your full hand of cards. So it's about timing, right? So I want to get into a position where I can score when I do a check at the time that I need to draw more cards. All the elements come with different powers. They look like playing cards, but they only go, I believe, 5 to 7 are the numbers. The number is their power and also their hit points. So this one will deal 5 damage, but it'll also... no, it doesn't. The 5 is not their power. Their effects have their power on there. So this is just hit points. So it takes 5 damage to take this guy out, 6 to take that one out. And there's rules. You can put out multiple cards at the same time if they are either all of the, I believe, same color, or if they're all the same number. All right, and you kind of do a draft in the beginning. You draft, you end up with like 4, I believe. And so you're looking for combos. So one might say, hey, when you summon this guy, drop 1 damage on each opposing unit, or and they're adjacent. And then you can play another card that then says deal 1 damage to each unit with damage on it. And so those are the combos you're looking at. So this one had a basically a well down the middle for the, like basically of this size. Not a big deal. I sleeved the cards so then they didn't quite fit, and they were just kind of all over the place. So now I printed this like well. You see how it looks in there. You know, it's a little hard to see far away. There you go. So you can see that. And it's just 2 by 2. You just drop your cards in there. Well, I may reprint this one because I use sleeve cards. It's a little bit of a challenge to get them in there. Or I can just do them piece by piece a little bit. But maybe there's a better way to kind of put these in there. I don't know. But I did get them in there. There's a slot here for these tokens. I think they had printed like a little well that you can pull the tokens out of. I didn't print that because I didn't need it. But otherwise, just another small box game. And that one was also like testing prints. You know, kind of learning a little bit more of how they work when I was learning my 3D printer. Then we have Calico, which was also one of the first ones I printed. This one is you're basically drafting hex tiles to your quilt or to your board, and you're building a quilt. Right. So all the hexes are in here. Show you what they look like. So they're like that. So I did not create an insert for these because these are like randomly drawn out. So I'm just like, well, just leave them in the bag. All right. I dropped one, and I got to pick it up because I'm putting the box away. And I don't want to have to pull it back out. All right. So, and it's in the bag, right? So pretty nice there. This one went a little above and beyond. Like I didn't really need this piece. Like it's a pretty thick block. I mean, it's a light, so the the inside is not as it's not filled all the way on the inside, but it was also somewhat unnecessary. You see I have some scuff, some bad printing here. And this was when I was learning the 3D printer. Mine, I have to level every time I do a new print, and it took me a little bit to learn that. So I could go back and reprint it, but I really didn't need to. This one comes with a lot of tokens for scoring purposes, like bonus points. So they made a nice little tray for that here. And the colors in this game are just amazing. And this is the lid for it. These are the cats that you're trying to impress. So they made a little holder for it, or for them. We've got this tray here, which comes with a lot of, I don't remember what these are. Oh, these are your scoring tiles. So AAA, triple B. So if you have these type next to each other, like 3 of the same color and then 3 of the same another color, you get 7 points. If you do half of it, you get 7 points. If you do all of it, you get 13 points. Or something like that. It's been a while since I played. So interesting little accordion-like thing here for those tokens. Put this to the side. See, this is your quilt boards. And so those hexes, not this one obviously, but they would go in like that. And you're basically building out your quilt, and as you put them down, right? So once you put one down, you can't move it. And so you're drafting and trying to put them to, you know, eventually match those shapes. And then you've got all your cats. So these cats here also have scoring requirements on them or associated with them. And as you get them, you put these cats on over those tiles to say, hey, I've scored these tiles. And they're all just individual wells. So pretty cool. And the holder for the scoring pad. So very nice little game. Again, everything fits right back into the base box. So nice and convenient. That goes in there. This goes here. And then the bag goes right there. And that is Calico. All right, let's push this one over here. Let's try to slide this. I've still got quite a few more to go. All right, this is Abyss Conspiracy. We have the Big Abyss game, which we all love, and the creator came out with kind of like a smaller game in the same world. You're basically, are you playing or drafting cards? You're drafting cards to then play them out on your tableau, and you're trying to do consecutive colors, and you're also trying to build points. And if you put certain ones next to each other, they have keys, you get a location, and the location covers up those keys but gives you bonus points and powers. So this one is primarily a deck of cards, and they just kind of sat in the box. And then there's a little bag for these tokens. These tokens are for scoring purposes. And so I went online and I found this nice little insert. This one's not easy to pull out. I mean, it's not designed to pull out. You just pull the tokens out because it's got like ridges on the side to kind of help it pop in. It was a very satisfying pop once it went in there, right? To let you know it's in place, right? So all the cards, so now we can just pull out this little section, and then there's these little cards here. Again, I ended up using the gray one for this one, so it's a little more expensive, but this game's worth it. Yeah, you've got all these. So this is all of one faction. So you would just pull them out and give one to each player. That is Abyss Conspiracy. And since I went ahead and did Conspiracy, let me just reach over and grab the full game right here. We should have a recent video on the channel where we played this game. It comes with the big, beautiful playbat. So we used it, and it's got a big, beautiful board too. And so basically you have like the council, and then you have your leaders. And so you're drafting council cards. Those cards are of different factions and they have different point values on them. And then you have all these leaders who require certain colored cards or certain factions at certain point values. And so you're kind of drafting those. Well, actually, you're not drafting them. You're flipping. And then each other player has an opportunity to bid and take that card away when it comes up. And then you flip another and you flip another. And you just kind of, you got to put your poker face on and hope somebody doesn't take a card you want, right? And then when you get to the end, you kind of get rewarded with pearls, the kind of currency in this game. Actually, it is a currency in this game, and the pearl is what's used to place bids, right? So if you get to the end, it's the last card, you have to take it, but you also get a pearl, which then gives you the opportunity to bid and take a card away from somebody else. All right. There's 2 expansions, Leviathan and Kraken, and all the components fit in here. So this this well over here, these are your lords. Call them leaders, actually lords. You can see the top left corner is how much they're worth. 3, 5, 4. And then the bottom, this one says 7 point values in the squid faction. So you have to have 7 of those little cards, or 7 points worth of those little cards, and only squids. When you get to some of these other ones, like this one, the shell, you get 9 points. At least one has to be shell, and then the other one can be any other faction, but it has to be only 2 faction types, either the shell or another faction type. And some of them, like this one, will get into 3 faction types. All right, so there's a little well here, or a box here for those cards. You got the score pad here. You got the pearls in their trays right under it. Okay, I've got some cards here. So these are the council. So see, that's a shell worth 2. That's a squid worth 5. And did somebody put these in upside down? Of course, they're kind of hard to see the top of them. I had to slice the top a little bit. All right, yeah. I might as well fix these while I pull them out. But that's kind of like the gist of the game. And so the locations that you can conquer, the lords that you get, they all give you points. And those points is what's used to win the game. Okay. Oh. Okay. I'm just going to stick these back in here and I'll figure it out later. I just thought that I might have accidentally mixed. Oh, here they are. There's some expansion cards in here that I took out when we were playing. All right, so that's the top level. Here are the locations I was telling you about. Certainly they could have used, smaller components, but this is designed to lay across 3 of these cards, and it blocks their powers. So the lords have powers. Some are like instantaneous when you get them. Some are continuous. And then once you get keys, you got to have 3 keys, and you got to cover up each key. Each lord has to have a key, and you cover them up so they lose their powers, but then you gain the bonus of the location. So this is a nice insert here for that. I think this goes all the way to the bottom. Yep. Actually, that's 2 pieces. We've got some sideboard pieces, like this one's the Kraken. When you put that expansion in, actually I think it's part of the base game, as you flip cards from the council, you might run into the Kraken. You can choose to conquer it then and get the reward, or you can choose to ignore it and then it gets more valuable as time goes on. But again, you don't know when it's going to come up again. More tokens. Nice little wells for them. They're the little miniature for the Leviathan, I believe, expansion. Dice for Leviathan. There's tokens here. These are those Kraken ones I was telling you about. So you can choose to get these points or these tokens, and then you flip them over and gain points. There are keys I was just talking about earlier. So a lot of the lords will come with keys on them, but some of the rewards In other parts of the game, will let you get keys, and if you have 3, you can get a location. And then more of the pearls, the currency I was talking about. So this looks like a shell, which is pretty cool. So you'll pull these out, you'll drop, if I had 1 or 2, there'll be 1 or 2 in there so everybody can see how much you have. What's cool about the bidding system is the first person who bids, it costs 1, and then the next person that bids, it costs 2, and then 3, and so forth. And that's a nice little mechanic so that the turn player is not always losing everything. It's going to cost, other players a lot more to disrupt them. So that is Abyss. And again, this little ridge here and here is so the board can fit right in the middle without sliding around too much. So very easy to pull out now. And set up. So let's put Abyss over here. All right, this is a newer game I haven't quite played yet, and there's actually 2 of them. There's a third one that I haven't bought yet, but I figured I should at least play these before I buy the other one. It's a card-based game. You put the card out there, or the enemy has cards around them, enemies, boss, and then enemies. And then you have cards and you're activating abilities to defeat the enemy. It's a puzzle because they have certain powers that prevent you from doing certain things. This one again just came with, actually I think this one came with the divider in the middle and just 2 wells. So I went online and I found somebody made this amazing insert, which is pretty nice. It's a little heavy, so there's not a lot of, they could have maybe put some holes in it to make it lighter. But otherwise, wow, they put a lot of holes on the bottom. Right. I haven't even sleeved these yet. So the dice are all up here. Oh, I remember to put this up. Dice are all up here. You roll those to determine how well your abilities do. There's some tokens over here. I don't know what those do. And there's just holes all along the bottom. So I don't know if really you're supposed to pull this out. Someone could just put your finger hands in and grab the cards. Things like that. So that is Kinfire Delve. This one is Scorn Stockade. This one is Vanglory's Grotto. Let's see if I sleeve these. Nope. So this one, these are still pretty new, and I haven't gotten around to sleeving them, but I did print inserts for them. All right. Then we've got Lueur. I don't remember the English name for this game, but this is from Bombi-X, which is the same company that made Abyss. And this is just like a really nice little game. This is the board. And you are basically moving from location to location, trying to get as many points as you can. And depending on how far you get even more points. There's darkness, there's light. A lot of the cards are black and white, and with hints of color here and there. It's very beautiful. Again, this game came with baggies, so this one I found online, and it's a gorgeous insert. So here you've got your creatures that you kind of run into throughout the game. You can draft them to your tableau. They give you extra dice to roll, or they give you extra points. These are your main, I believe your main characters. Yep, your starting characters. These are boats and stuff. I don't know what the boats do. Don't remember what these do. These tokens are the houses, right? So you drop your house somewhere, and you're, I believe, guaranteed that many points. Yeah, because the locations have these star values. You're not going to be able to see them. Like this one's 8, that's 12. If you're the first to drop your house there, you get those points. And it's a little tricky because you want to get like to the next location and drop your house there for more points. But if you don't quite make it there, somebody will come in behind you and get the location previous, right? And you have to be on that location to drop your house there. So you got some decisions to make there. The dice, you roll them, and then based on the colors you get, you either activate units on your tableau. It's like leaf, fire, water, cloud, or you use them to move along the map. So really cool game. You've got these feet token, which basically let you move more spaces. You've got smaller dice. I believe the big dice you always have, and the smaller dice are the bonus ones. And that's really it. And it fits kind of in the original well that the game came with. These kind of come up. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm really hoping there's a expansion for this game because I really like it. I know I played it with some folks online. They really enjoyed it as well with my online groups. And again, I can't remember the English name for it. But I ended up buying it from BombiX directly. All right, we're almost there. Now we have Cryo. So Cryo is Luke Laurie. He also helped with Dwellings of Eldervale, games like that. Pretty sure. This is a space-themed game. Basically, you land on a planet. You have so many drones, and it's a worker placement. So you're taking the drones, you're putting them out on locations on the map, collecting resources, and you're basically trying to get your people to these underground colonies. And obviously, you need resources to do that. I believe you actually crash on the planet. So you're trying to gather as many resources from the crash site, from areas around the planet, and get your people into these bunkers, these escape pods, and survive that way. These are the player boards, dual layer boards, very gorgeous. These squares are where your drones sit when they come back, just like Dwellings of Eldervale. You put them out on the board, you gain some stuff, and then when you decide to recall them, you bring them back and you activate everything in that column. And you can build stuff to go in that column. I don't remember what the insert for this one looked like, but I printed an insert, so it must have been more bags. I'm pretty sure it was baggies. This one kind of takes player setup into account. So if I pick up like this blue player, there's all the cards that come with them. Yep, there's 3 drones, pods, cubes to track resources, etc. It's just gorgeous. You can kind of see that. Love that the cards come back and fit in there. Let me show you one where the colors pop out a little more. This is orange or reddish. Okay, so pretty cool there. As you saw on this board, I think you can still see it, yep. These are things you can kind of pick up as you go along. So this one's an interesting one because, again, it doesn't have the side slots, so I can't get this out as easily, but there's some space in between. So if you can get a nail or something in between there, you can pick them out, but this would go like in here, in that kind of slot. So when I bring my drone back here, I'd get whatever that reward up here is and that one. So you're going around the board and collecting these as well. So there's green ones, there's gray ones, there's pink ones, and they all have their own. Okay. They all have their own little holder tray for them. All right, there's more tokens to kind of track the day, the time. I believe you only have so much time to do the things you need to do. These are the cards. They're like upgrades you can grab for your board. This insert's pretty good. You know, I may go back and make my own. I think it ended up this way when they made it because it's like a really big box and not a lot of components. But these things still kind of like move around. Right, so I kind of want to design my own so that they don't shift around as much and they make more use of the space. And I don't know how this goes back in. Oh yeah, see that kind of sits on top a little bit. So I may go back and make my own insert for this one. So that is Cryo. Put that over there. Next we have Heroes of the Shire. This one I don't remember a whole lot about it. It's still relatively new. I haven't played it yet, but I did go ahead and make some pretty... Did I make these? No. These are downloaded. There's a lot of stuff for this. So basically, this game is like combat. There's player versus player, and I believe there's a co-op mode. And you have a player board. You have all these powers, and you kind of do. You choose the ability you want to use, and you fight the enemy in front of you. This game, I've got my own games that I want to make, and the challenge I always come up with is statuses. Because I think that statuses, allow you to put like poison on folks, or reduce this, or increase that, more damage, less damage, etc. But it becomes maintenance when people are playing. And so they came up with a pretty cool board track where you can slide the tokens, across the board to see how long you have them for. So with that came a whole bunch of tokens, and they were in, as you guessed it, bags. So this person printed these wells, and you organize all the tokens in there, and they actually printed lids for them because there's so many tokens. Once you spill it, you're just like, man, it's a lot of work to clean it up. And so there's a ton of tokens. And so I just kind of tried to follow his pictures to organize them. Basically, every token gets its own well. Again, this is great for when a player says, oh, increase your damage or reduce your damage. You're not trying to sift through all these tokens and bags or on the table. You just pick up this tray and you try to find the matching symbol, and then like, oh, there it is right up there. So a lot easier to do with that. There's some smaller ones. I believe these are for the players, the characters. Yeah, because in this game, I believe you put the character tokens in a bag, and then you pull them out of the bag, and that's who the next character is to activate. Okay. You've got this big tray here for these dice. These dice are used for ability cooldown. So if ability like 3, you'll put on 3. On the next turn, you would drop it down to 2, etc. These dice, I believe, are health markers, and then there's some cubes. Comes with a lot of cards, so this was a nice well, or trays to kind of put the character cards in there. Enemy cards are in here as well. There's player ones. Standees. This is a nice standee tray. And again, I tried my best to put like ones together. Obviously, there's only one standee per character. So I try to put heroes together, enemies together, so that way. And so this one you could technically put them together. All right, more tokens. And then these are Hexx locations. Look at the size of that. See how big that is? So these are tiles. You're basically moving across it. I think it's like a pyramid grid or pyramid. And when you flip them over, it tells you, actually, so the numbers are how you set them up. And then when you flip them over, you spawn enemies on them. And there's certain bonuses for being on certain tiles, etc. So that is a hefty one, but it fits all the hexes beautifully. So that goes in there like that. This goes on the edge. There's kind of like a gap here, so I printed one of the lids to act as a spacer, so this doesn't shift around. All right, that goes there. Character tray, character tray. So that is Heroes of the Shire. Again, this was another, I'll say, intimidating as far as setup is concerned. Oh, gotta put this on top of the bags because there were so many tokens, and so when you pulled it out, you're just like, man, I gotta organize all these tokens just so I can play the game and figure out what's what. Underneath is all the player boards. I'm not gonna pull those out; they just kind of sit there. So with these, it was easier to kind of pull them out now because I organized them. Right, so now I can find the hero tokens. I tried to keep them together. So I pull out a hero, it says, pull these many tokens out for them. Go grab that stack, I'm good to go. And then this is like the hero abilities and stuff. You can read about them. All right, so that is Heroes of the Shire. I really want to get this one to the table and play it. The co-op mode, because again, I like the variety of characters, and I kind of want to play with player powers. All right, I'm going to reach over. And we got Rune Stones. So this is a deck deconstruction game. It's got, I believe they're all dragons. So you are a druid, you are drafting, yeah, they're dragons. And then based on the dragon colors, you get certain runes, certain stones. And then you use those stones to get points. The tricky part is you have to play 2 cards at a time, and the dragon of the lowest value is removed from the game, and the other one goes to your discard. So you're picking up, like you're buying new dragons, and then as you get them to your hand and you play them, the lowest valued one is going to go away. So you got to make a decision of, oh, I really like this dragon's ability, but that means I need to play it with a lower cost card so that I don't lose it, right? So this one was kind of a mix when I downloaded this one. The game came with a couple expansions, so those are in there, but these are the runes, player powers that you can get. So as you unlock the runes, you can select, there's like you draft them basically. These, and they give you, bonus powers. These are some of the runes themselves, red ones, blue ones, etc. On that, see, this is an expansion, Nocturnal. It comes with all these cards. Again, they made specific slots to fit them. Very nice. Again, easy to pull out. This with another expansion. Actually, this one's probably the base game. More of the base game. So these are your scoring markers. More of the rune powers. Again, this is a good insert, but it slides around, right? And I think it's because there's a lot of extra space. So again, this may be one I revisit in the future, but making, I don't know how they did this. You probably can't see. Oh, there you go. They even made this slot, this indentation in here, right? So I guess maybe I'll make spacers for them. I don't know. This I ended up buying separately off of Etsy, and it basically holds the cards. Of course, now I feel like I'm good enough with designing it that I could have made this myself. This one just happened to fit in this slot here, and so these screeching noises. But there's no like hole at the bottom, no side holes for you to be able to grab these. You kind of got to do this. But these are the dragons I was telling you about. Oh, not those. Oh, these are actually the player base cards. Actually, I think most of them are druid cards, but the powerful ones are dragons. There's like a gold dragon and a white dragon. So, actually, let me go to this step. Yeah, so there's fairies, fairies. Yeah, there's a white dragon. So, again, really cool game. You can see the numbers in the top right corner. I think you can see the numbers in the top right corner. They're there, I promise. They go up to like 100, maybe a little over. And so the lower the number of the card, right, the more powerful it is too. So depending on what you have in your hand and what you want to do, you might be like, man, I got to sacrifice this powerful card just so I can get the maximum value out of it. And you see, so this kind of sticks up a little bit. You can't see it too well, but it does. I mean, the box lid will keep it down, but over time it'll create creases. So this will go into the pile of ones I probably got to fix, design my own for, and go from there. All right, I've got another one. Clank Catacombs. So there are quite a few Clank games. There's Clank in Space. There's Clank Legacy. This is more the fantasy one. I do like Clank in Space. I still haven't bought it. I think my only challenge with it as to why I didn't buy it is because the map doesn't change a whole lot. But I don't think that's true. I think depending on where the boards come out, change the way you play it. But basically in that game, you are trying to get all the way to one end of the ship, get as much jewels and prizes and whatnot you can, and then get back to the other end of the ship in order to get an escape pod and get out of there. If the ship falls apart before you get to the escape pod, then you failed. This one's similar in the sense that you are, trying to get treasures, but you're more in a dungeon than a spaceship. Or you are in a dungeon instead of a spaceship. And the difference is these are square tiles, and you kind of put them out and you connect the lines. So this one's easier to see that the setup is different. Okay. This one I found online. It included all the expansions as far as the insert's concerned, and I did buy the Layers and Lost Chambers expansion, and I think another one to give unique player powers. So this is a lot to unpack here, so let's go ahead and check it out. So this is a starting board. Okay, here are your square tiles, your dungeon tiles. Let's see if I can, maybe I should pull this one out first. So these are treasures. See this one, I think if you have a crown, you get 5 points. And there's other treasures that kind of get dropped on the map, and you go around and you pick them up. This one is not coming out easily. There we go. Yeah, because it's that, right? So those are all the hexes. You can kind of see them. They've got their lines. So when I flip this one, I can put it like that. But you see those two monsters at the bottom here? That means if I cross over that, I have to have so much attack in order to overcome them, or my cube gets placed on the dragon board, which is over here. And if I get to the end, I die. Hope you can't see it. On the Clank board, so if I'm red player, it's my health basically, and if it gets to the end here, I die. And so the idea behind Clank is that you are moving around, and the actions you take make noise. They make clank, basically. And every time you make clank, you're putting your cube, your color cube, into a bag. And then when the attack comes, in Clank in Space, it was one thing, and this one there's like a dragon. You shake the bag and you pull so many cubes out based on the dragon's threat level, and everybody whose cube gets pulled out is put on the board as damage, right? But those can also be damaged through monsters like this. So lots of locations. They're not double-sided, but you kind of build your dungeon out as you're playing it. Okay. Clank is also a deck building game. So you start with the traditional, well, I say it's different. When you think of like Ascension, it's, you got like a currency and then you have like attack. In Clank, you have movement and you have currency to buy cards. So to move from one space to another, you got to play those movement cards. And so there's a ton of cards in here. Let's see if I can find one. Yeah, see the blue is kind of the currency, call it Burgle. And then sidestep is your movement. And then of course you have your stumbles, because every deck building game has a couple cards that kind of slow you down. Again, this insert is individual player ready. So see, I picked this one up. I've got the red player, his movement, and all his cards. And all that just goes in there. And then I've got, another player down here and another player down here. And then this box in the middle here is all your cards in your tableau that are in the market that you are spending your blue points on to buy. And so you're building your deck in order to do better. This one came with a lot of tokens. You can see them in here. Just different. There's your money currency. Some things cost money. Just a lot of tokens. Special rewards. Like these are these treasures. This one's worth 20 points. So if you get all the way to the end, actually this one's probably a random. But you're basically going around trying to find the one that's worth the most. All right. These are the individual player powers. See, you've got a character. So this was also designed where you can put the cards in here, but you know, I might not have. No, I don't have that expansion. So I don't have the expansion with the individual player powers, and that's what would go in here. Those deck of cards would go in here, and there's some cubes and things that go in there. So that's something on my list that I need to pick up. I think. I'm not sure. It may be that these cards go in there, and they just have 2 ways to store them, basically. More cubes, more rewards. They're just all individually stacked. These were expansion cards. There's monsters. This is a stumble, so some of these may be those player powers I was looking for as well. Just haven't opened them yet. We haven't played this game in a little bit. So, but that's another amazing organizer. You know, the person who made this one really did all the measurements, right, to get everything to fit and tight. It's not easy, folks. It's not easy. This fits right in here. It's got the little lips here, so that it sits in there. And this one's kind of similar right in here. So that is Clank Catacombs. Right, and while I'm getting this to fit, I'm going to reach over here and grab, I got 2 more left. So this one I bought on Etsy. This is Rallyman GT. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous game. You build tracks with these large hexes, and you roll dice. The dice are per your gear, and you know, if you roll the number, like first gear, if you roll a 1, it's fine, you're good to go. But if you roll a hazard symbol and you roll too many hazard symbols, that means you spun out, etc. They do have dice mitigation, which is really nice. But this is the game, right? So these are like the hexes. Look at that. They are just gorgeous. You can see the lanes and everything for your cars to go on. So you can build your own tracks. The book comes with a bunch of track examples, etc. You just build it out on the table. These are your cars. Each of the cars come with cards that tell you their stats, right there. See, it tells you how many gear dice they have, how many coast dice they have, and how many brake dice they have. So, you know, if I wanted to go, if I was in 2nd gear, then that means I could roll a gear for 3rd, 4th, and 5th if I wanted to go that high, right, to speed up and go around the corner. The white dice will let me coast, so if I'm in 3rd gear and I place a white die, then I stay in 3rd gear for 1 more space. The red dice allow you to brake faster and reduce your gears in case you want to slow down and make a sharp turn. But it also shows you the hazards. If you get 3 hazards, you spin out in this case. And depending on which gear you're in, your car takes more damage. So, like I said, this insert I got on Etsy. The seller is very friendly. Exchanged, you know, communication with them a few times. What's cool about this one is it comes with the 3 large wells for the hexes. Now, this one I could not straight up print on my printer because mine is, maybe it'll fit. If it does fit, it'd be on the edge because my print bed is 220 by 220, and so this one might be pushing it a little bit. These are your, can't remember what they call them, but like your precision tokens. So you have two ways to roll dice in this game. You either roll all of them at once, in which case I think you get one of these tokens for each dice you rolled, or you roll them one at a time, in which case you cannot get these. But you can spend these to mitigate your rolls. All right, I can't get this out. Oh, there we go. So look at that. Oh yeah, that is a lot of cards. Most of the stats are the same. It's when you get to different style cars that they actually change, because there'll be rally cars, there'll be race cars, different model type cars. I picked up a couple of the expansions, and that's why there's more dice and more card variants. Came with more map tiles, etc. Dice over here. There's the dice I was talking about. You've got this little slot here. These are your gear markers. So when you get to a certain point on the track, you kind of remind yourself what gear you're in. Let's see, pull these out. All right, each player gets their whole set of gears. All right, that's 6th gear, right? So I would put, if I'm in 6th gear, I put that there. So also when you're starting the new round, the player in the highest gear goes first, so you can kind of remember. It's got a token well. These are all usually placed in a bag. And so when you spin out or something, you pull from the bag, and it might be like, oh, you lose a break die or you lose a coast die, you know, something like that. I think in the expansion, I've got the Rallyman Dirt expansion. That one I finally was able to get the boost dice, kind of like a Fast and Furious thing. You normally don't play with that in the regular game, but I thought that was just a cool thing you can add, and it basically allows you to boost and go a little farther. Okay, these I actually also bought through Etsy, and these are basically to help keep the hexes together, keep them from sliding around, so you can put them in the corners. So that was kind of separate, and I just threw the well in here. I think it was separate. And there was a well in here, so I kind of threw them in there. So that is Rallyman. I'm trying to, I got to go back to the seller's page and see if they have one of these for dirt. I thought about making my own, but again, this one is so nice, right? And I don't think my print bed is big enough to print it in one piece like that. All right, I got one more. It's a really big box to show you a really small thing, but it's also a critical small thing. When I mean big box, I mean big box. This is Primal. I'm gonna have to stand up for this one and hope I don't hit the camera. Can't get my fingers under it. Primal the Awakening, hand management card game where you're playing cards to, you've got a miniature on the board, you've got your big bad monsters. It's a boss battler, right? So you kind of choose the monster you're going up against. They go on the board, you choose your hunters. They go on the board, you get decks of cards with them. And then the cards have like special combo abilities with them. Let's see, I think to get this out, I gotta do this. Yeah, lots of miniatures. Like I said, a big part of this video is just showing you some of the cool games that we have. All right, more monsters cards. So interestingly enough, there's this box which comes with some nice wells, and I love the clear. I put all the heroes here, or the hunters here. I managed to fit all their cards in here. And then I've got an entire other box, just it's about this size as far as like width and length, but height wise it's much shorter, but it has all the monster cards. It is a big box, but that was also organized. The one thing that was not organized were the tokens. They came in baggies. So here are the hunter boards. So I like Mira. She's kind of like, because I like games, I like playing, my style is like graveyard manipulation stuff. So she does things where she flips cards into her graveyard and does more damage, things like that. And there's quite a few hunters in here. You've also got your campaign book. Look at that. There's a lot in this. I'm going to try to pull these out so I remember how they go back in. All right. So if you can see inside, all of those tokens fit in a couple of bags. So first thing I did was make this tray, which was kind of interesting because these are like terrain stuff. And so I wanted it to be in such a way where I can pull this out, put it on the board, and be able to see the tokens, angle it without dropping it, so then I can pull it out when I need it. This little well here, I think was for some cards, so I just made it the size of this, and I put it in there. So now like the fire one, I think fire's in here. There's brush. Oh, there's rocks. Yeah, there's the fire ones, right? So now I can pull those out, again, instead of sifting through them. And then I made all these. So different damage types. There's 10 on the other side of this. Yeah, it's 50 and 10. And again, they were just in bags, so I'd have to like sift through them. I have like the little token holders, either a single well or divided in 2 or 3. And so we would just pour them all in there and kind of grab them out. And I was like, you know what? If I make this, then you can just say, oh, I take 2 5s, put them in there, one's on the other side. And it's just a lot easier. These are like counters. So I put them on the end there, again, finger spot to pick them up. You know, I had to put a spacer in here to kind of help out. There's also this tray. I put the hole in the middle because, again, it would have been like wasted space. It just made it heavier, but these are like in-game tokens, right? This means you can't play defense cards. This means you gain +5 damage, +10 damage. And don't forget, a lot of these apply to the monsters too, so they can gain damage as well. You're blind, monsters deal additional damage, etc. This tray is most of the tokens you're going to start the game with. So that's the player with the aggro. That's who the monsters are going to turn to and attack. These are your player threatened tokens, your player knockout tokens, monster aggression tokens, your stamina tokens. So I kind of made each tray, you know, match the contents, right? So all the damage is in one tray. These are all your like starting components. This tray is going to be all your monster status effects that they can put on you and stuff. And then this bigger tray is for just statuses in general. So that is it. There's probably a couple others. I know I printed out like a Mage Knight insert for the Wizard. I also printed out a couple of inserts for the Ninja. I don't have those here to show you, but those were also pretty cool. There's probably like 1 or 2 other games that I printed like very small little things here and there for. Most of the box was pretty well organized. But that's basically it. I've really enjoyed, you know, just sitting at the computer, designing, measuring, trying to figure out, you know, how to organize this box and make everything fit in nice and neat and make it useful. I learned a lot from just, you know, buying the first couple and then printing some straight out and seeing how they did it into designing my own. So, like I said, in the video notes, I will put a link to at least a majority of these that I can find again to show you this is where I got them from, just so you can check them out for yourself. With that, Primal being the biggest one and the last one there, that's it. Now I can finally put these games back where they belong in their shelves, because I've had these sitting on the side table for like a couple months now, because I would get a new game and it would be like, oh, I need to make an insert for this, so let me make that insert first and then do the video. And then another game would come in, and then another game, and another game. So I'm sure there's plenty more to come in. I'll show you. This is the new one. It's called Night Shift. You are basically at the club. I am so excited to play this one. Even before I knew what it was about, I bought it. I mean, even before I knew how it played, I bought it just on theme alone, because I'm like, I don't think there's another game like this. I gotta have this. So we're gonna break it out. We're gonna check it out. I also did a recent video for Moon Saga Workshop, an unboxing video for their Parts and Potions, which I believe is finished production and it's about to be on its way out here. And that's about it. There's probably like 7 or 8 games that is on our list to play. What we try to do at least is to do a couple rounds, get familiar with the game, and then do a video so that, you know, we make less mistakes, you guys get more value out of it. But also feel free to call out our mistakes in the comments, put a timestamp. I'll go in and put a note to say, hey, this was corrected, here's what it should be, etc. So that is it for this video. Thanks for watching. My name is Kenny. I am the Emperor. I am the top decker. I have a couple names there. And this is Wizard of Mo Games. We'll catch you next time.